Can you hear me, Brian?
I can.
Okay, good. Okay. We're short a couple members, but Kevin just let me know that he's going to be 20 minutes late, and I believe Melanie also thought she might be a little late tonight. And we do have 4 members, so we can probably go ahead and get started. So we'll go ahead, and it's just 6 o'clock now. Actually, before I do that, Sue, Claire, and hopefully everybody else is going to join us as they seem. Okay, so we'll go ahead and call to order the January 25th, 2021 meeting of the Finance Committee. It is exactly 6 p.m. Tonight we're moving forward with our budget presentations. Tonight we are going to be reviewing budgets from the Town Clerk, the Conservation Commission, the Veterans Service, Building and Planning, and the Assessor's Office. So we'll go ahead and start. We're going to dive right in. So Brian, you're going to just put the new spreadsheet up on the screen. Is that correct?
I'd be delighted to do that. Give me half a second to catch up with you. Who are we doing first?
That's fine. I'll go the rest. I'll review the rest of the agenda. How's that? After we review all the budgets, we're going to vote on our minutes, which hopefully everybody had a chance to review, and then talk about the rest of our schedule. I'll start off with, since I had technical difficulties today and my first email of the day didn't get out to everyone, I'll apologize that I had every intention, or Brian and I actually had every intention of getting the budgets out much earlier. But what we have kind of discovered is that format is a little all over the place. So what Brian spent his weekend doing was plugging everything into the master spreadsheet. So we thought it might be best from an ease of data review to get basically everything into the master. And then what we're going to do is we're going to just review budgets out of the master spreadsheet. That way everything's in the same format. Everything has the variance, the percentage of change for both the level funded and the level service budget. So I think that would just be easier for us as a committee to kind of go through. So that being said, looks like Brian's got it up on the screen. I'm gonna put my glasses on so I can read that, teeny tiny. And if you're ready, Sue, we'll go ahead and we'll just dive right into yours, and you can just go ahead and start going through it.
Okay, so for my salary, asking for consideration for a sizable increase, and I'm basing that on trying to have my salary more on an equal scale with my fellow department heads, and also that the job has changed immensely with COVID, but going forward, even when COVID's gone, the state is still going to have this vote by mail and the early voting in person. I don't think those are going to be going away. And it's just a much bigger responsibility here as far as record keeping wise and keeping everything, the process in a manner that we make sure that people aren't voting in person and then by mail. Just the accountability is just, and the scrutiny over the elections has just changed immensely over the last couple of years. So I was just asking consideration for that. And then as far as my my staff, I put 2%. Right now they're the clerical has no contract at this time. It's up in July 1 on June 31st. So I'm not quite sure where they're going to land. So I just put them up at a 2%. Going down to town meeting, that's a big decrease from last year because they're hopefully at this time there'll only be the one election. But again, the elections are costing more with the time and efforts we have to put into them. Even for they're talking for town elections, the vote by mail. Not sure about the early voting in person with that yet. There is legislation in the works. It hasn't gone through yet for anything beyond March 31st. So we'll see what that goes. I also did put in the budget with the clericals overtime for them for their town election on Saturday and extra hours for town meetings and the other town meetings, special town meetings we have to put in. My stipend for $500, that's for having over 10,000 registered voters in town. That's statutory by Chapter 41. And the others are basically just, supplies, computer supplies. Our copy machine at this moment, the one we have now, is not under contract, so any repairs going forward we have to take out of my budget to take care of. Hopefully it won't be needed, but I have to have a cushion there just in case. On my level funded, I do have a little less money in there for dues, memberships, and conferences. If I have to skip a conference or something due to budgetary, I'll skip it. But obviously, I would like to go to as many conferences for myself and my staff that we can to stay current on all these changes that are, affect us on a daily and annual basis. So that's basically my budget. My board of registrars, the salaries, they get a $500 each member of the board of registrars gets $500 stipend, and then the supplies is basically covers the town census. This year's census ran about 4,300, so I'm assuming postage is going to go up next year, so that will cover that increase in the level service budget. And then anything over and above that, if I don't have the money there, it does bounce back to my town clerk's town meeting page, and then we pay for it out of there. Any questions?
Yeah, so Sue, can you just go back, the clerical salaries? So
Yes.
Those are the poll workers that you have for town elections?
No,
And
the
town
clerical
clerk,
salaries,
that's your clerk.
clerical salaries is my assistant.
That's contractual, okay.
Yeah, and my assistant, my other staff member they're part of the contract.
Okay, so your wardens are all just in that town meeting line?
Well, yes, all my wardens and clerk and anything for voting, although that pay is all out of the town meeting line.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
Has there been any comparative study for surrounding towns for a town clerk position and what the average salaries are?
It's very difficult when you look at that, because they'll put out the range, they'll put out the salary, and I think the last one we had was 2019, but it doesn't put the number of hours. And some town halls don't work 35 hours, some work 37, some town clerks only work 20, 25 hours. So when you look at the salaries, sometimes you're kind of comparing apples to oranges, and until they actually give us one of those, someone will take a survey with hours worked and the salary. But I offhand don't have that right now.
Brian, does the state database have that information available?
The same problem with the state database. They don't distinguish between elected and appointed, and they don't distinguish on the hours. So if you give me the list of towns you'd like to make a comparison to, I would be delighted to gather that information for you.
Okay.
Thank you.
But pick the list, so so I don't have to discuss whether they're comparable towns or not. So, give me the list.
Okay. Perfect. Any other questions for Sue? All right, seeing none. Excellent. Thank you very much, Sue.
Thank you.
All right. All right, Claire, you're next.
All right.
Go ahead when you're ready.
Okay, so our only increase is in the our clerical services. She goes up to a step 4. What we did include this year is educational. She has a bachelor's degree. So we've now as with past practice with other employees in the town hall, have included her educational in there too. And then I added in a 2% increase if there is for contractual increase if they do with the new contract. So for level funding, we took that money out of the engineering costs. We can probably pretty much cover our professional services with what we've left in there. The only variable with the extra money is our MSN, not MSN, I'm sorry, our
MS4.
MS4. And you can tell I was doing something on my computer before that. And for the MS4, and that's such a variable. And so there's really no judging how much we would need from that for that. So that's it.
So Claire, could you explain to me how we went from a 10% increase last year to a 23% increase this year?
All right.
So we've gone from $39,000 to $56,000.
So 30, you're looking at 39 back in 2019.
2019, then it went to 40, and then
Yep.
41.
So again,
45.
a change in job title. Last year, the position went to administrative assistant at step 3.
Hours as well.
And the increase of
Can
hours
you
to
repeat?
full-time.
Can you repeat the hour change?
She's
Yeah,
gone from,
I'm sorry, Claire, go ahead.
no, she's gone from roughly 30, it fluctuated because it had been going up about 32 hours to full-time.
And do you happen to know off the top of your head what the breakdown of the percentages was, like what the step 4 increase was and what the bachelor degree stipend increase was?
Percent-wise, I have dollar amount. I know the weekly increase was, does Brian have that? No. Right.
Okay.
Was 14,
educational-
roughly 1,400. Go ahead, Brian, sorry.
The educational is 8%.
Okay,
And then there's the 1.5% COLA. And then there's the step, which don't quote me, but I think that's about 3%. So combining them all together, that's why you're getting such a significant jump.
And is the college degree increase, is that contractual in the contract, in that contract, that
Yes.
union's contract?
yes, yes.
And is it job specific? Job related specific?
Well, I think it actually works quite well because it's in psychology.
Yeah, I agree. And that was one of the things and she's had this degree in place when she was hired, but we never did push for anything with that. But that was one of the things that when she came to interview, we liked because of her interaction with the public and just dealing with all different personalities.
She had been entitled to that number all along, but for some reason it was never credited to her and she never complained about it.
No.
Any other questions for Claire? No, great. All right. Well, thank you very
Okay.
much, Claire.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. Thank you. All right. So,
I'm going to see if Chris is ready.
I was gonna say, I don't see Chris either.
Is Chris in, Rebecca? If he's not, we could temporarily just skip over him and go to the planning, but I don't see planning in here either.
No.
Let me call up.
We're running very, very fast, though.
Okay.
We technically didn't even have Chris. We thought we would be good 20 minutes on each one of those budgets.
Okay.
This is one he's on now. When he comes on, I'll see if Patrick and Roy and Paula can possibly log on.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not getting Patrick answering here. Well, who else can we do in the meantime? How about Paula Wolf? Is she on? No, we're really just doing poorly
Log
here.
on in a second.
Well, we're doing well. That's the problem. Well, if we want, while we wait for folks to dial in, we do have 4 of us, so we can actually go through the minutes if we want to just take care of that agenda item. We can flip around. I don't think either Kevin or Melanie will be heartbroken if they missed that vote.
That's good.
Yeah, okay. So we'll move on to reviewing available minutes. For the folks on the call, did everybody have a chance to review, and did anybody have any additional edits?
I reviewed edits.
Say that again, Dan?
I reviewed, I have no edits.
Okay, perfect.
Same here. So I made
Same
a
with me.
motion to accept the minutes.
I'll second.
So should we go ahead, let's for the sake
Oh.
of the so I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes of June 18th, 2020, 9/22,
Motion.
2020,
That
10/27,
motion.
20. Oh, hold on, I got a whole list. 10/27, 2020, 11/9, 2020, and 12/7, 2020. Now I'll take that motion.
I'll make a motion to accept those minutes.
I'll second.
Okay. Any additional conversation? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. SVU. Perfect, motion passed. So Melanie and I, Melanie, I have to, even though she's not here, I'll give her some kudos. Having done the clerk's job for 2 years prior, it's a daunting job, but we did a nice cleanup of last year, and we did pick up a couple of minutes we missed. So kudos to Melanie for getting us completely caught up. So that's wonderful. All right, and then I think I see Chris. Perfect. We lost Brian. We'll wait 1 second for him to stroll back. He might be trying to round up folks.
He just passed my office, head back to his.
Oh, good. There he is. We can follow him through the.
Trying to round people up here.
There we go. Oh, and Melanie just joined us. Melanie, you just missed it. I gave you all kinds of kudos.
Oh.
We just
Well, that's good.
we had a little break waiting for the next budget presentation, so we just took care of voting on the minutes. So.
Oh, excellent. Perfect.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, perfect. And Chris is here. Perfect. All right, so we've run through town clerk and conservation, and we're ready. Now that we have Chris with us, we're running very, very ahead of schedule. So we've had to round folks up. So Chris, if you're ready, I believe we have your budget up on the screen. If you want to go ahead and walk us through it.
Okay. Thank you. Going for the first 2 lines as far as salary, the COLA 1.5 increase. And then we would be, depending on, going with the level funded or the level services, like I said, not much increase in anything else, mainly because due to the pandemic, some things that I've planned ahead and we really don't need to spend on, namely going down to, like I said, the office supplies can be cut a little bit. The dues and memberships, we're not traveling as much as far as going to conferences and stuff. And then also with the in-state travel. So like I said, with the level funded budget, those areas were cut for those specific reasons, barring your questions.
No. I don't think we have any questions on that one, so you can go ahead to level services. Really,
So
there's
level
not much change
services
there.
again. So yeah, so level services, then we've got just the COLA increase for the 2 line items that have to do with department salaries. And then across the board, like I said, we wouldn't be touching anything. And like I said, we're set up for success to get through this, for veteran services to get through this little bump we have here on the road.
Chris, can you tell us a little bit about how this year particularly, how your numbers are faring through the pandemic? Your number of clients that you're servicing?
So the number of 115 recipients we have is staying steady, but fluctuating at the same time. What I mean by that is people either move out of town or pass away, and we are equally bringing on as many people behind it. So like I said, in the beginning, right before the pandemic, we had a couple drop off. We added some April, May. But then again, towards this end of the year, we had, towards the end of the year, calendar year, sorry, we had a couple more drop off, unfortunately, because they passed on. But now with the new year coming, we've got another 2 or 3 additions. So that's kind of been the ebb and flow of it. And we've been able to stay consistent. I have spoken with other towns. A lot of our bordering towns unfortunately, they're kind of dropping like flies and they're not getting the replacement. Here in East Bridgewater, we are, keeping steady with the outreach and bringing more people in.
Great. Wonderful. Are there any questions for Chris? None. That means you answered. Yeah, it means you answered all the questions proactively.
Excellent.
All righty. Well, thanks very
Very
much.
diligent.
Yeah, he is. All right. Excellent.
All set?
Thank you. I think we're good. Excellent. And I think I just saw Patrick joined us too.
Paula is actually going to be logging on any minute.
Okay.
And Patrick is here, but Roy is also going to be logging on in about 10 minutes.
Okay. So maybe we can jump around, and maybe when Paula joins us, maybe we can do Paula first.
Yeah, she should be on in there. She said she was logging in now.
Okay.
I can't believe how fast you got though.
Any questions from the committee on anything so far?
What committee members are on? I see Dan, Crystal, Dave. Is Joe or Kevin on?
No, Kevin's actually going to be about 20 minutes late tonight,
Okay.
and we're going so fast he might wind up missing the whole thing.
It's okay. I just wanted to make sure that I had the right notes here.
Yep. Maybe I can review what we're going to do next week. 25/2/1. So next week we're meeting on 2/1, February 1st, and we'll be going over this Council on Aging, IT, Accountant, Tax Collector, Treasurer, and Board of Health.
Laura, one thing is last week when we talked to the police, they had that report. Can we get a copy of that report?
Yeah, actually, Deputy Chief Jenkins had mentioned he was going to try and get us that, but I will follow up with them. I think it's a big one. I think he said it was like 160 pages. So it'll be some light reading for you when you can't sleep.
Well, I was just thinking even more about, yeah, it'd be good to get the whole thing, but even the slides that they presented, especially that one where there was a 400% increase or whatever it was, like
Yeah.
on the calls, try to understand that a little bit more.
for our next week, you want me to tighten up the schedule a little bit?
You might have to do what to the schedule?
Like with the times, or do you just want me to have everyone log in?
Yeah. We may,
Log in at 6.
yeah. All right, well, although we have Patrick, we don't have Roy, right? We're waiting, but Paula just joined us, so if we want, we can have Paula go first while we wait, and then Patrick, if you're okay with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Perfect, all right, well then we'll jump around a little. And we'll go over Paula. So Paula, not to put you on the spot, but if
That's
you're
okay.
ready.
Yep. Okay. So how do we want to do this?
So Brian's got it up on the screen. If you want to literally just go through kind of each of the line items for the level funded first and then flip over to the level services.
Okay. 1 sec. All right, so for level funded, we're going to start with the level funded.
Yep.
Okay, so basically up top, it's the contractual salaries, and this year I had one of my staff has buying back sick leave. She's been there for 32 years. So she's starting to buy the excess back every year. So that was a surprise to me this year. $3,480 I have to pay out. She also buys back a week's vacation. That's the 1141, and the last is the stipend that's on the state stipend that for my certification. So that to cover all of those, down at the bottom, I pretty much cut everything to as bare bones as I could. You know, I decided we won't go out and do any in-state travel, or we won't do any mileage. It's a far reach to just say, oh, take 10,000 out of this small budget that I have anyway. So, or not 10, but 30. It was a lot. So I don't know what else to say about that one. I think it's a little bit ridiculous. Not ridiculous, but harsh. I hope it doesn't come to that. And does anyone have any questions?
Is the 7% department head salary increase, is that contractual, 7%?
No, that was a combination of another part of my contract that is just going to go out of a board salary, department head salary. If you add up last year, it's 83, and then under longevity was 4166, and they're rolling that in. Hopefully, I haven't written my contract yet, but that will get rolled in just under the salary. So it was there before. It was just in a different category.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the level funded budget?
So Paula, you said something about making up $30,000. Where is that?
Making up 30?
Didn't you say taking 30,000 out of such a small budget? Didn't you say something like that?
No, I said that originally I said 10, then I went down and went, 3480. So 34, I'm just adding the things that came up in the top part this year.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's ultimately $3,000.
Yeah. On top of a level funded, then I got hit with an additional $3,500. So it's not a big amount, but I don't have a lot down at the bottom to make up for that plus the contractuals.
Yeah. Okay.
So maybe I mean, might want to start with level services budget and then go to level funded, because it's just like, that first one. But anyway, level services budget is basically leaving everything the same and then keeping and increasing the contractual. And you can see that that's the same both sides.
Mhm.
And then just leaving the bottom as is with no.
Yep, so pretty cut and dry, I would say.
It's pretty cut and dry, I guess.
is.
Yeah. You know, if I'm hoping that, you know, the 2% increase is basically just salaries on the level services budget.
Mhm. Okay.
Now, why is the administrative staff one $3,000 difference? Are you decreasing hours if it's a level funded?
Yeah. I'm trying to just change things in the office a little bit. So one of the part-timers is okay with doing a little less hours. She's
Okay.
fine with it. So I said that was fine. So I saved a little money there.
Okay, all right.
Any additional questions, Paula?
No.
Excellent. All right.
Well, good.
Easy peasy. All right. Well, we also hope that it doesn't come to level funded, so we'll keep our fingers crossed. That is the hope. But all right. Well, thank you very much, Paula.
Cross. All right. Thanks.
Exactly. Great. And I see Kevin has joined us as well. Wonderful. Kevin, this is not the night to be late. Sorry. We've been blowing through the budgets like at a very rapid rate.
Oh, you're the best. You know?
Yeah, it's not me.
You set a sterling example last week, and you're continuing with it this week. What can I say?
I think I budgeted 2 hours tonight, and yeah, we're not going to need it. Wonderful. All right. Well, believe it or not, we're at our last one. So, so it looks like I did see Roy join us. Yep. So we have Roy and Patrick.
Wait, so we can watch The Bachelorette then. All right, let's.
Yes, exactly. David can't really believe you said that, but whatever.
I created 2, but I'm trying to remember which one I really want.
Okay. Oh, yes, there, because we had the.
Yeah. So I think this is, Patrick, is this the right one? Because we created a change.
Are you looking at?
I'm sure it's really small.
Let me see if I can figure
I
for
think
you.
that is the one. Yeah.
Okay. That's the right one?
Yeah, I think that's the right one.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Patrick and Roy, the floor is yours.
Sure. So, the first thing you'll see is basically the overall budget. The way we had presented it in the past as a combined budget is there's about a 9% decrease because one of our employees retired and came back part-time. That's why it shows the basic decrease. And with the building department, we moved an administrative assistant from the planning budget over to the building budget. Just moving it from one department to the other. And what you're seeing, this is the building, the one on the screen right now is building inspection.
You're breaking up quite a bit.
All right. I don't know how to fix that. So see the administrative assistant salary in the building department now, where it didn't exist before.
Okay.
That just got moved over from planning. So if you look at the planning, you'll see that it's not there in the planning.
When you get to planning, you'll see a big decrease.
Yep, okay.
So that's why you're seeing that.
Brian, is that similar to how we handled, I don't know which department it was. We pulled out of Board of Health over to DPW. It was sewer, maybe?
Yeah.
The wastewater treatment.
Yeah, and how we just basically pulled the entire line over, so we had the history attached to the new department.
I can do that.
Can we do that with this as well? Because again, if we're
Yep.
literally just flipping it from one department to the other, it should probably kind of retain. It shouldn't show as a big variant, I guess, is my
Okay.
point.
I will do that.
Okay, sorry about that, Patrick, but I think it'll just ultimately help for your historic purposes too, to have it that way.
Right. So that's basically it for the building part. That's why you're seeing that increase in the building. And if you move to the planning, if we can flip to that.
Have a second.
So you'll see on the level funded side, you'll see where there was the large drop. Yep. Right there. What we're looking to do is the town wants to hire a planner. So if that's the case, then that needs to be included in FY22's budget. And that's right there over on the level services budget. It's where that shows up. You see that at the top?
65,000?
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so that's for the anticipated planner.
So Patrick, hasn't there been talk in the past of, raising fees or doing certain things in order to pay for this to make it kind of a self-funded position?
Yes, I'm glad you asked that. Right now, we're just finishing up compiling a couple of reports, made comparisons with all the surrounding communities, and we compared them to where our East Bridgewater's fees were. The building department is about 30% behind surrounding communities. Last year, one second. Last year, we actually showed a 53% increase in the building department's revenue. If you look at all the other communities in the state, they're up about 25%. Building is up, but we're up 53%. A large portion of that, and I know we talked about this at last year's budget meeting, a large portion of that is the online permitting. And we're now seeing the results of what we talked about. The expense that went into online permitting is more than paying for the online permitting.
But that's with fees that are still 30% behind our neighboring towns.
That's correct. So now you add to that, if we brought those fees, if we added 30% to that, to our number, we're going to easily cover the added expense of the planner. If we combine the two budgets, because the planning fees need to go up too. Those are the fees that are charged for planning services aren't where they should be. They're below all the other communities around us. And so we're working on coming up with a definitive plan for that, like exactly what we should be charging for fees, which things we should be, there are some things that we aren't even charging for that other towns do. We don't have an exact number yet on what that would be, but a 30% increase in the building department, I mean, you can already see that would more than cover just moving that position from planning over to building would easily be covered by building raising their fees. And now it leaves almost a vacancy for planning that can be half filled. And then the other half can come from raising their fees.
Because didn't we talk about this a little last year when we were talking about losing the deal we had with the engineering firm, civil engineering and stuff like that?
Yes. Yes, and we there's a request for proposal out to engineering firms to provide engineering services in Bridgewater. We haven't gotten that. We haven't gotten back something yet that we can use. And what we'll use is basically whatever they're going to charge per diem or per hour, we're going to put into a fee schedule for services provided. So if somebody comes in, let's say for an application to build a subdivision, and we know it's going to take 3 inspections from an engineer, you can ask Roy. Roy would know better how many inspections it will be, but we'll have a number from the engineering firm, what they're going to charge, and we'll be able to create a fee based on that.
Yeah, so if I could add to that a little bit, one of the reasons it currently looks like the planning board fees as compared to other towns are much lower is that we have always self-funded all the engineering services for the planning board based on set aside individual accounts for each applicant. So therefore the applicant has to establish an account with the town of financial department, puts the money in that account as a predetermined amount for deposit. Then we draw on that to pay the engineering fees. They're not coming out of town budgets. Now, what we're planning on doing, if we are to add the planner, is that we will raise the base application fees more in line with what some of the other towns do. We will still continue to maintain a self-funded or an applicant-funded budget for each project with the town treasurer and the town collector.
Right.
So it's a little, some of the fees that we see are misleading because some of the fees in some of the adjacent towns, I determined this afternoon from a spreadsheet that we just got today that's being worked on by the office. They charge the base review cost for the engineer in their application fee. We pay for that engineering review as a separate fee that the applicant pays directly to the town.
Right.
So we need to do a little bit more work with that to sort it out, but and I haven't seen yet the complete roll up for the monies income from the planning building department for fiscal year 2021 yet, but typically that's a substantial portion of the overall budget for the planning building department.
Right. Yeah, we're still working this out. Yep.
Okay, perfect. I don't remember which line we left off on. I think we were still talking about the planner.
Okay.
Obviously, there's not much else left there for level funded.
I think basically that's the idea. What we're looking at is we have a budget that without a planner, it's a decrease. It's about a 9% decrease from last year. With a planner, it's, I guess we could throw it in there. It's probably a 7% increase. So it's whether or not we have a planner.
Mm-hmm. And again, if there's a review, what do you think the process and the timeline for the review of the fee structure would be, and then potential implementation of increased fees? What do you suspect that would be around?
Well, we would be ready for Springtown. It would have to go to Springtown meeting for the fee. I believe we'd be ready. Like Roy said, we established the surrounding towns that had some sort of fee structure that we could even look at and read. A lot of them are very confusing. So we got, and the ones that were as up to date as we could find. Now we have to determine exactly what they were charging for. As Roy said, some of them are already charging for review engineer fees, where we're going to continue to have that separated out. It's going to, that part of it's going to continue to stay just the way it has been. I think that's if Roy wants to chime in, I think that's been working okay because it's been level funded. They just kind of pass the bills along. You know?
Yeah, for my duration on the planning board, it's always been the planning board's opinion that applicants before the board should self-pay all of the actual engineering fees and review fees. Because those are all value adds to the project. That shouldn't be coming back to a town budget line item. So those, pretty much the entire time I've been on the board, we've always had those as straight self-funded fees. The only thing we need to do is look at the processing of some of the applications and the work that needs to be done with that, and make sure that the cost of the actual application and the processing is covered by the fee for that.
Right.
So do you tack on an administrative fee for that?
There is an application filing fee now for most of the applications that we have before the planning board. That's intended to cover the administrative fees within the office. Those fees do need to be raised somewhat. And as we said, we're still analyzing that to determine how much higher they're going to go.
Okay.
So Patrick, what we're left with here, if I'm reading this correctly, is you've moved the Ellen position over to your department, and basically what's left under planning would be Dot or whoever as the administrative support service there. Is that correct?
Right, and the plan was for that position to become the planner.
Okay.
So if I could add a little bit more to that, I think the somewhat longer term goal here is to maintain Dot for a period of time after we hire a planner to be able to, let's say, transition over the knowledge she has, because she handles most of the applications for the planning board, the actual paperwork.
So where does the clerical support for the planner ultimately come from?
The intent is that the planner is going to be the planner who does that.
So you're going to have somebody planning and doing all of the sort of the ministerial advertising and all of that good stuff that relates to all those applications. That's I mean, that's at least a half-time position in itself, isn't it? Don't you think? I mean,
not on behalf of the planning board. I'm not 100% sure how much that entails with the zoning board of appeals, although I believe it's only a few hours a week on average. Keeping in mind that those things, an application before the planning board has to be in a month or two ahead of time. The work it takes to get that set to go is maybe somewhere between 2 and 4 hours. Typically we don't have more than 1 or 2 applications before us at one of our meetings. We meet bi-weekly. So if you average it out over a weekly basis, it's not a real big number.
And Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, Dot was going to stay on with the zoning board. That the zoning board's a separate position, and she's staying with that.
Correct.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, that money is reflected down in the zoning board of appeals line item.
So she's split in the budget.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
So the work that she's currently doing for the zoning board is going to stay exactly the way it is, right, as it is right now. She's going to continue with the zoning board portion. Yep.
I mean, I just don't see how the planning board clerical work, having some idea of what I think that involves, I don't see how that gets done, by a person who's hired to be a planner. But obviously I get the fiscal constraints too, so.
We have a physical constraint, Kevin. So the other side of the coin is when the planner comes in, that we're going to see how that works out. And if they come next year and say, I got to have some clerical support help,
Yeah,
maybe.
Well, Brian, having the planner is more critical, but I'm just saying from the standpoint of,
Yep. In the long run, it's probably not supportable, but in the short run, it has to be.
Yeah, gotcha.
Okay.
I think the plan would be as we move forward and see how that goes, that, I mean, there's a potential that we could need more hours, and potentially from Dot, since the plan is she is going to stay on board with the zoning board of appeals for some period of time. If necessary, you know, we could consider putting more hours back in for Dot, but I think at least initially we'd like to be able to see what a plan is going to do on a, I mean, if you work out the number of hours in a fiscal year, there's an awful lot of hours there that we need to use, and at least initially, some of those hours could be used to cover Dot's, you know, filing of the administrative side for applications before the planning board.
I think you'll find, Kevin, if the, one of the things we're slowly working towards with planning and zoning also is to get them implemented in this, the online permitting, the People's GIS system. I can't stress enough how invaluable this has been. We're actually starting to show it in numbers, but the amount of workload that takes off, the system is doing a tremendous amount of work. You've seen how much paperwork comes in and how much handling of the paperwork someone physically has to do. That's all gone. And it's going to help quite a bit, that a lot of the ministerial efforts, and it would open up more time for somebody to work on different things other than simply filing and things like, because that takes up a lot of time when it's just, you know, it's 10 sets of full-size plans.
Yeah, I mean, whatever the mechanism is, I mean, I think the importance is obviously to have somebody there as a planner doing a planning function, not typing and you know, filing and collating, you know. So I mean, that's my only point here. And if it's, you know, sustainable over the short term, great. But as I just said, I mean, I think clearly it's more important that you get the planner in there and kind of work around those other details. But maybe that's not a long term, you know, setup. But that's
Well, an additional piece to that is we're attempting, as part of our updated planning board rules and regulations, to require all of the applicants to file all plans with us, with the majority of the copies being handled through the electronic process. So they'll file PDF copies with us so we can distribute those to everyone. No longer have to worry about having 10 paper copies of everything that gets sorted out and passed to each member of the planning board and so on. So hopefully we'll be far more electronic in the submissions starting in the fiscal 2022, as well as going forward, maybe even be more electronic. So hopefully all of those things are going to be improvements in efficiency as we go along.
What's the timeline for getting on People's GIS?
So right now they just, they agreed with several of the other departments. Isn't that right, Brian? They have 3 other departments that are working towards getting on it. And the planning is going to be part of, they're going to kind of flow with the building department.
Okay.
So the time frame is, because planning's not like a separate entity for them as part of the agreement they just made, they kind of last in line. So I'm guessing midsummer.
Okay. Okay. And
again, that's a guess.
Yeah. And the other thing that you mentioned, and I think actually Roy, you talked about, so you have kind of the self-funded accounts that kind of pay for the engineering services and such, but then the base application fee comes back to offset department expenses. Do I have that correct?
Yes, that's basically the intent.
Okay. You know, so, and this is Brian, but he's on the phone. Maybe more for the committee, something like that is a revenue source that offsets. I think we need to somehow figure out how we can see that in the budgets, because I think it's an important part, and especially when you're talking about potentially reviewing the fees and raising the fees, it's the other part of the story. You know, you've got these expenses, but we're talking about, you know, the hiring of a planner and how much that position has, you know, to Dave's point, we've been talking about this for a very long time. It's such an important position. It would be nice to kind of figure out how we can incorporate the 2 stories together of, you know, yes, but we're hoping this is going to be completely paid for by this increased revenue stream. So So Brian, I was just saying, talking about the base application fees and how those are expense offsetting, and how can we figure out how to get them into kind of our financials that we look at as part of the story.
Yeah, that's fine. I've actually asked Phyllis to pull the amount of permit fees exactly, permit and planning fees, so we know exactly how much money is generated now. And then once Patrick gives us what his proposal is, we can actually extrapolate what the income will be. And so we can actually look at that. Now, some people might say, and I'm going to preempt Dave Walsh on this one, to create a revolving fund so you see it in and you see it out. The fees and permits are part of our local revenue, local receipts. They already supplement the operating budget of the town. Roy's way of doing it was a really good way of making sure the town was protected from being overcharged. But I will ask Patrick, what's it cost for a subdivision in Bridgewater?
So a comparison for just the base fee for a 10-lot subdivision. I just did a 10-lot subdivision with 1,000 feet of road. 11,250 is Bridgewater.
And what's East Bridgewater?
1,400.
Your problem here?
So,
now,
however,
money on the table.
But Bridgewater's did include one review fee for the engineer. Any other review fees after that one they had to pay for.
Okay, so back one review fee out of that.
Right, and I think that one review fee was near as I can tell, it's hard to decipher exactly how their fees work. As near as I can tell, that was the 1,250. So I thought they were around 10,000, and the 1,250 was that one issue review fee. I think. What we're going to do is actually call them, and if we can speak to somebody directly, and ask them if what we're reading and interpreting from what we've gathered is correct. We want to be sure. The only other ones I'm familiar with, I am familiar with Middleborough's, and their flat fee for the same development would be 8,000.
So do you see how we're going to pay for these things?
Yep.
And of course, one of the suggestions I would also make, and Roy, this is the first he's heard of it, and I apologize, but instead of having the fees set by bylaw, you have the fees set by the Board of Selectmen. So you change the bylaw to say that the Board of Selectmen sets the fee schedule, and then you don't have to wait a whole year for fee schedules to change, or even have to go into a big debate at town meeting where most people don't really care. So you move the fee schedule out of the bylaw and into policy.
Yeah, I have no problem with that, Brian.
Okay. Yeah.
I think
However, we can do it as fast as we can.
We can't fall behind. We can't be the bargain basement. You know, we get caught up in our own, air, so to speak, and we lose track about the fact that these things cost money. And the engineering firm that we're going to bring in is big bucks. We've got to be able to cover that. And we have staff and we have overhead that is predicated solely and only for these subdivisions. And when they're selling houses, price they're selling houses, why is the taxpayer subsidizing that process?
Yeah, you're right.
Well, it sounds like a good plan. All right, we left off at, so we basically went over, did we go over zoning? Yeah, zoning wasn't much. Do we need to move on to any more questions before we just go to the next page? Any questions from the rest of the committee on that discussion topic? No? Kevin, did you have anything else?
No, that's,
Good.
I think, as I said, planner
You're my
is
resident
a
expert
huge thing
here.
if you can do it.
All right, then we can go on to the next page, Brian. Brian. All right. So Brian, can you flip over to the next one, gas and plumbing, wiring and?
Yes, I apologize. Let me
That's
see if I
okay.
can find it. There we go.
Okay.
You'll be thrilled to know I threw a sealer of weights and measures into there, and that's not really Patrick's world, but he can present it.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, that's fine. The, not much changes there, and the small amount it does change. If you look at the very bottom, you can see a level services budget is only 1.2% increase.
Yeah, pretty much
There's
is
not
what
a
it
whole
is.
lot to do. There's not much we can do at all.
Yeah.
Everything's kind of at the minimum as it is.
Yep. Agreed. Are there any questions from the committee on this small amount?
Patrick, where we're in these different budgets, where we're seeing assistant inspectors, is that like vacation coverage, or is that actually somebody that's there on a more frequent basis? Like in your office and these other ones as well?
So they're just covering when the other inspector can't be there. He's out sick. You know, there was a short period that, you know, one of them had, you know, I don't know if he had a small operation or whatever, but he had to have someone fill in for him. They have to be available.
Right.
So it's just, that's an annual stipend, and they have to be available whether we use them or not.
Okay.
You know.
So we're also going to look at the fees for inspection and also for the sealer as well as part of our review of fees.
Yes.
Yep. Patrick, I had one question going back a bit, and Brian, you don't even need to flip, I don't think. Under building, so inspector, I think it was inspector salaries.
Yep.
We saw a 8.5% increase. I apologize if I missed your explanation there. Was that just contractual, or is that increased hours?
It's not contractual yet. Evan, this is a contract year for myself.
Okay.
So when contract negotiations come up, what my plan is has to be included in the budget. I don't know if that's how it's going to work out, but
okay.
So what happened to the assistant building inspector? That's okay. That's going to be the.
When Patrick goes on vacation or sick, there's no one to cover.
Okay. All right. But that's out of there now. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, that was my only other question. Are there any other questions for Patrick and or Roy? Now, is it, am I correct that the planner position is already posted?
It is posted, and you can get a copy of that on the town's website under About Us and the Employment Opportunities. And while I'm doing this, by the way, I want to thank Roy Gardner for basically authoring that document and making it really professional. So I'm hoping that we've already got one applicant. First day it was posted on MMA, and and they did it right. They did the whole application correctly, which is really uncommon and unheard of. So I'm excited that we are going to get a decent pile of applications. And I've also spoken to UMass Dartmouth, which has a master's degree program. So make sure that that gets distributed to the graduating class and to the alumni affairs. And also in speaking to the dean, he's distributing the job opening to several people already working in the field who thought that might be a good fit for our town.
Wonderful.
I'm optimistic. And, you know, the opportunity to work with Roy and the driving motivation for a lot of these applicants.
Well, I think personally, I feel like we've been talking about a town planner for as long as I think I've been alive and paying attention. So I think this is a nice move to help us move forward.
2003 Government Review Study Committee recommendation.
Yep.
Government works slowly.
Boy, almost said a bad word. Okay.
Great. So any other questions in these departments on the budgets? Great. Well, I feel like there probably will be some more discussion as we start talking about the position a little bit more, as we start finessing the numbers. So I think we know where to find you, and I think we'll probably, hopefully not too much, but we'll come back to you if we come up with any other questions. But I appreciate the thorough explanation, and we're excited to see where it goes.
Very good.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Patrick. Thanks, Roy.
Great, thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you. All right. All right. So again, Kevin, you missed all the other good stuff, but you can catch it up on video.
I apparently slowed everything down. I don't know.
Yeah, we were flying along until you joined us.
Exactly. Yeah. Whatever.
But I think everything, there weren't a ton of questions. I think everybody did a nice job, and I think Brian, to the point of getting it all in the same document style and format, helped tremendously. So lesson learned, and now we have a good format moving forward, I think.
I will say it's a big spreadsheet, and I do appreciate Laura, looking at the formula cells and finding mistakes. And she found one this evening, and it's sort of I'm trying to submit it to her perfect, and I
while he was in a meeting, mind you.
Yeah. Yes.
Multitasking.
But we'll try to get the finished document out the next day or two that shows you where we're at, and keep updating you as we go.
But I encourage you, to keep looking at the documents and keep, what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably try to keep in the document some running questions that we have, questions, concerns, that type of thing. So when we then go back and have some of our conversations, we'll have some of those key notes in our document to look at. Like I said, hopefully we don't know quite where we are with the numbers yet, fingers crossed, but we still have to do the correct preparations in the event of. But, all right. All right. Well, we already voted our minutes, which was our only other agenda item for tonight. So we're actually good. As I mentioned before, next meeting is next Monday, I believe, Monday the 1st. It's again a 6 p.m. meeting, as it's a Monday night, and we're going to be reviewing Council on Aging, IT, Accountant, Tax Collector, Treasurer, and Board of Health. So Rebecca, we already talked about having everybody dial in at the beginning, so we don't have the same issue. Watch, next week will be like snail's pace, but. Great. Does anybody else? Yes.
How did the liaison meeting with the school department go?
Oh, thank you. I meant to ask that.
I think it went well.
Yeah, I do too. Go ahead, Dan.
They were very forthcoming. They had everything very well prepared.
Yeah, they gave us a great presentation, like a PowerPoint with a lot of information. And as always, they answer any question that comes up.
Yeah, I mean, it does look like they're coming in with around a 2% increase, which I didn't think was bad. They did cut back in several areas. And I mean, Liz, she was very upfront with us that she had a similar conversation with Brian, that, her thought process is, if we're throwing $1.6 million into the stabilization fund, that if there's ever a time to use it, it's during a pandemic. She feels like she's done a lot of good with the teachers' contracts, which she did share some of that with us, and I would agree with her. So.
Did you walk away with a copy of the PowerPoint presentation, or was it just a visual?
Visual.
Visual.
Is there a date set for public review of the budget yet? And is there a date set for school committee certification?
We didn't get
reach out for that.
Okay.
She said, we asked about a copy and she had said in the past, there was a binder that you could go in. They probably don't want us going into the school, I'd have to guess, to sit and read through their binder, but she said it was their first version. And then when I asked if they were gonna look at massage the numbers at the end, she basically said they'd already gone through that process and they thought this was as refined as it was going to get. So
yeah, there were instances where she said it had changed, that she had met with Brian. I think it was only like 2 days before she met with us, and there was some adjustments between then. So there definitely was working copies, but how much changed after they met with us, we're not sure.
And Brian, maybe something for the next discussion, or I'm happy to reach out as well. It would be nice if we, again, I'm going to ask if we might be able to get something ahead of our meeting. Again, that's why I'm asking if there's a date for public forum and school committee.
When do we have them on your schedule? When are they due?
I believe I want to say like the 24th or the 25th, I think.
Of
February. 22nd.
22nd?
So February 22nd. Yep.
I think that would be easily done. They are moving.
Yeah.
They're further along than they ever were
I was
last year.
just going to say that. Yeah.
And
It
in
seems
addition,
like
we're waiting still to see what the state's going to do, particularly about special education funding and where they're going to be on the circuit breaker. That's going to make a big difference to their final budget. So there's still some unknowns in their number. In addition, I've tried to disabuse them of the idea of a round percentage. I mean, if you come in around 2%, but I'd rather not make them come in at 2% exactly. Come in where you need to come in, but be aware that this is not the year for extravagance. And
I completely agree. I would say out of my entire time on the committee, this was, in my opinion, the most well put together and realistic budget that we've seen from them.
I think they're doing a great job, and their transparency is increasing. The cooperation level is increasing. I think they're doing a really good job. Knock some wood, but I think maybe we're turning a page and start acting as one town, and not be at war with the schools all the time. That's the most important factor. They have a mission, and I've worked both sides of this street. And they have a mission, and it's about kids, and you only get one chance for first grade. Well, except for me, So consequently, we want to make sure that we provide the best. And if I take a little bit more of the school side, they don't move to East Bridgewater because we have great beaches. They're coming here because we have great schools. So that holds up our property values. It increases our quality of life here, and I'm going to give some credit. I think Liz is doing a hell of a job.
So, and that's great. I'm really glad to hear that. And I'd love, again, if we can move our process along even a little bit proactively, if it sounds like they're moving along well, then I think that's going to help us in our processing as well. So it would be great if we can do that. And if we need to have a little pre-meeting, Brian, that's fine too. So I'm glad to hear the meeting went well. There's actually a school committee meeting tomorrow night too. That's a virtual meeting. So, maybe we can glean a little information at that point as well. Good, excellent. Any other questions, comments, concerns? None, excellent. All right. Well, other than that, then I guess I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion. Go ahead.
Dave?
Skips.
I'm sorry, who second?
Kevin.
Kevin, thank you. Excellent. All right. Any additional conversation? Didn't think so. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Thank you very much, guys. And we'll talk. I'll send out emails, but then we'll talk on Monday.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great.